Nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas, in the picturesque mountain town of Mussoorie in Uttarakhand in India, I am at this place called Shanti Sadan, which literally means a house of peace. At this salubrious and calm place is to be found the works of Mrs. Leela Gujadhur Sarup. Painstakingly, she has researched hard-to-find documents at archives at Kolkata, Mumbai, New Delhi, and in Mauritius. The research carried out on colonial emigration and indentured workers has produced several volumes of her works. She spent over 17 years researching, roughly 4 times the period it takes an average person to acquire a PhD degree. But it was not to earn a degree that she did this research. It was to tell a story of a great human journey, of a great human endurance, and of human exploitation by the colonial powers of that period. Through her monumental works, the mist is now slowly lifting over the history and the story behind the indentured workers who went from India to different outposts of the British and French empires. Many of the records that Mrs. Sarup came across at the archives could not be photocopied or taken out because of antiquated laws. So what did she do? She sat inside the archives and copied those documents by hand. It meant spending several extra years researching these valuable documents. The descendants of the indentured workers have today become presidents and prime ministers of their adopted land. From powerless sugarcane workers to absolute political power, the ascent has been incredible. Nestled in the lap of the Himalayas, today we are with Mrs. Leela Gujadhur Sarup to understand what motivated her to undertake this epic journey. Good evening, ma'am. From your understanding of emigration patterns, why do you think such large-scale movements of indentured workers took place to different parts of the world?
Actually, it is a very long story.
Okay.
You have to start understanding the way why indentured labor started to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And my research does not start with 1833 when 34, after the abolition of slavery in the British colonies. It doesn't start with that.
Okay.
It starts about almost 50 years before that, or more than that.
Okay.
When the movement of abolition of slavery started in England in 1797 and 98, and people started taking marches on the streets of London to protest against slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I tell you that indentured labor has a connection with piracy, would you believe that?
Not at all.
Well, this is how it probably started. So in 1808, the East India Company was crossing the Indian Ocean to go towards the Cape Town to go to England.
Right.
And on the Indian Ocean, they were always intercepted by pirates.
Okay.
In 1808, they lost 22 ships in 1 year to the pirates.
All right.
And they were based in Bourbon, which is today Réunion Island,
yes.
and Île-de-France, which is today Mauritius.
Right.
So to countermand that, in 1808, after they lost 22 ships, the East India Company, with their sepoys from India, went and waged war on the French.
Okay.
And they conquered Mauritius and Bourbon, Réunion.
Right.
And in 1810, they did that.
Okay.
So Then there was a lot of there were wars around Europe between France and England and at other places. Then at the Treaty of Paris in 1814, Bourbon was returned to the French and was renamed Réunion.
Right.
Then Mauritius was renamed Mauritius from Ile-de-France, and the British kept that.
Right.
Then in 1816, the first English governor, Robert Townsend Farquhar,
Right.
when he was posted there, he wanted man to work and develop the island. So he could not ask the French planters for their slaves, which in any case they refused. And the governor could not import slaves from Africa because the motion was tabled in England in the Parliament for the abolition of slavery in 1808 itself.
Okay.
So the question was being discussed at that point of time. The Farquhar, the governor, asked the East India Company from India to send them manpower. And now it became a problem again for the British to send slaves from India. So what they did, they turned to life convicts and sent them to Mauritius to start building the bridges, the roads, the buildings and all that.
Okay.
Some were sent to Australia, some were sent to Bencoolen at the same time. But in Mauritius, these convicts behaved so well, and the French planters were so impressed that there were convicts who were free without supervision. They were working on the roads, they were working building the bridges, they were working all the time, everywhere. And finally, in the evenings, they would go to their barracks. And when the French saw that, there was no marooning, which was the habit of their African slaves.
Right.
And there were indolence, there were drunkenness, there were laziness, idleness and all. They were facing so many difficulties. When they saw these Indian convicts working so well, they decided, why not get Indian workers?
Okay.
But they could not ask for Indian workers because of the slavery motion that was in the Parliament.
Right.
So there was a gentleman in Mauritius by the name of de Chazal, who had some lands at Maudrin in the Plain William district, and he was given 28 workers, 28 convicts
Okay.
on loan
Okay.
by the governor.
Right.
And there his business blossomed like anything because he went into the opium business, he went into the mulberry silk business and all, and within